ජීවිතේ වැඩිපුර ලැබෙන හොඳම දේවල් විඳින්න. දැන් SLT broadband වෙතින් 75% දක්වා වැඩිපුර data සතුට ජනවාරි 1 වෙනිදා සිට ශ්‍රී ලංකා ටෙලිකොම්.
Good evening. Good governance ahead. In a special statement to the nation, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe denies reports of planning to vacate the seat, says he will continue with the good governance government.
As far as I am concerned, I am carrying on as the Prime Minister because under the law and convention, I don't see any reason why I should.
Dismissal steps. President meets joint opposition members and seeks Attorney General's advice on how to remove the PM. No show. Former Central Bank Governor Arjun Mahendran fails to appear in courts. Aloysius and Palisena further remanded. Money laundering. Central Bank expects Sri Lanka to be removed from the grey list by October this year.
Blacklist really becomes a problem. Right now, it's an amber light that's flashing and we need to get out of this list very quickly.
And in international headlines, Florida school shooting. Nicholas Cruz, who went on a rampage killing 17, confesses to the police. A defiant Prime Minister comes before the media to announce that he will continue to be the Premier while political turmoil continues to brew in the horizon. Will there be a new government or will the old prevail? We have all the updates you are looking for right here on First at 9. Good evening, I'm Mahesh Johnny in our lead story tonight. Amidst this political uncertainty, the Prime Minister of the country, Ranil Wickremesinghe, called the media briefing to alert the nation to the next move by him and his government. He said that he will continue as the Prime Minister of the country as per the provisions of the Constitution. Later on, he also responded to questions from journalists that range from the defeat of his party in the recent polls to the expected reforms. Now, here is an excerpt from that media briefing.
Prime Minister, some of the SLFP ministers and MP have gone on record to say that they are unwilling to work with you as Prime Minister and there seems to be a demand from that side for your resignation. How would you respond to that?
As far as I am concerned, I am carrying on as the Prime Minister because under the law and convention, I don't see any reason why I should. This is coalition politics. You can see the difficulty they are having in Germany in getting the two parties together again. Working is not very, very easy. And at this time, let's see what happens. If nothing happens, no news for you, no? We accept the verdict given by the people. It was a one-day election. First, also to test, make it convenient to run elections and also to test the public opinion, whether they agree with what we have done. There are setbacks. It was a big setback for us. It was a big setback for the government parties. But we have time to correct it. This is the whole reason for having a mid-term election. There are many reasons. Economic reasons played an important role, but there were others also. So what I want to say is that we'd like to go ahead with our programs, correct the mistakes, correct some of our programs, change our ways in some instances. We are now looking inwards as to what we have done, what we should have done. We are looking at new programs within the government. We are looking at reshuffling some of the ministries where it's necessary. Other item is that the UNP has the party that suffered the setback. The parties have also suffered a setback or not satisfied with the results. But at the UNP, we are carrying out a massive restructuring program. The transition had started, as to start after the local authority elections. Since the elections are over, we must ensure that the transition takes place.
Prime Minister, you yourself accepted the defeat of the local government elections. There is a criticism saying that the present government doesn't have the mandate to carry forward. In that sense, how are you looking forward?
Local government elections are mandates for number of local authorities. It's a barometer where government can correct itself. As far as we are concerned, we are heeding the message and correcting ourselves.
What do you want to correct?
On the economic situation, we had a bad this thing in 2017 due to we have to ensure the food, the cost of living is again made bearable like in 2016, 2015. There are other issues that have come up. So we are actually going through and asking them also what are the issues that affected you regionally.
Does it mean that the current fiscal reforms will not take place?
Reforms are taking place because we have to repay the debt. I mean, basically there have been too many delays in the development project. I would admit that.
So what are the immediate changes you are contemplating? Because there is talk about some kind of changes in the cabinet. So have you had any discussions with the president, and where do you stand in terms of reforming the cabinet?
We did have a discussion or two initially, but we got to look at it seriously next week. I've also spoken with our members and some of our backbench members.
Do you think your failure to take action against the Rajapaksas for what you all said allegations of serious crimes committed by them impacted on this result adversely towards you all?
We have taken action against members of the Rajapaksa family. They have been produced before court. They have been remanded. They have been bailed out against others. But I must say the people were impatient. They wanted much faster results.
How far the bond scam impacted the recent defeat, and do you take the responsibility for that?
Actually, there had been an impact. I think the Uruvallannathi was the bigger impact that went around in the country. All these had these things. So as the setback is concerned, the economic or anything as a party has to take, government has to take responsibility. And I as a member of the government and Prime Minister also has to take responsibility.
Are you happy about the new electoral system? What is your opinion about it?
We brought it as a model because we discussed it originally in the steering committee. Subsequently, when we put it forward, it got amended further.
So are you happy about the present system, or you want to change?
I think it has defects. So let's look at the whole thing. I'm waiting for the commissioner to send the full report.
So do you want to have the same system for the provincial councils also?
No, we'll have to have some amendments or look at how it works with the women's representation and also we have still not been. I asked the commissioner, he says he's having some issues, he'll report back.
Now, in this backdrop, the joint opposition says that if the president will establish a UPFA government, they will support it without expectation of ministerial portfolios. The members of the joint opposition expressed these views following a meeting held with the president today.
A group of UNP ministers led by the Prime Minister held discussions with the President last night on resolving the complications which sprang up following the local authorities election. Minister Sajith Premadasa, speaking to media following the discussion, said it was decided to continue the national government.
මට මෙහෙම දෙයක් කියන්න පුළුවන් අපි අලුත් ජවයක් තුලින් දකුණු පාය පෙරට තබලා හොඳ ගමනක් යන්නට යනවා. පාර්ශව දෙකම එකතු කරගෙන. අනිවාර්යයෙන් මේක ජාතික ආණ්ඩුවන්නේ.
However, several hours after the minister made this statement, Minister Susil Premajayantha, speaking to Derana, said that if the national government is to continue, a considerable number of SLFP members will withdraw from it. In a backdrop where there are opposite views within the government on moving forward, several deputy ministers of the UNP met the president once again this morning to discuss the matter further.
He is prepared to continue with the government of good governance. We are given the mandate for a government of 5 years. We are trying to continue it without letting it fall apart.
එතුමාට රෙදියඳගෙන කරන්න බෑනේ මල්ලි මොකද එතුමා මේ පොදු විපක්ෂයේ හොරු ළඟට ගියා කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන්ද?
In the meantime, a number of UNP parliamentarians rejected the social media rumours of some UNP parliamentarians lending their support towards the establishment of a UPFA government through their official Facebook accounts. Meanwhile, issuing a media communique, Jatika Helaurume said that the country is in need of a national alliance between the UNP which builds itself humbly while accepting the response of the people and the fresh force of the president. It goes on to say that everyone should be humble enough to accept Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna as the official opposition in the parliament led by former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. In the meantime, parliamentary members of the joint opposition arrived at the official residence of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa for a discussion. While the meeting was underway, Minister Susil Premajayantha arrived carrying a special invitation for the parliamentarians of the joint opposition to hold discussions to establish a UPFA government. Following the invitation, a group of parliamentarians of the joint opposition arrived at the official residence of the president. During talks, the joint opposition agreed to support the establishment of a UPFA government without taking on ministerial portfolios. Speaking to media, the representatives of the joint opposition quoted the president as saying that he will seek the opinions of the Attorney General if there are provisions to remove the Prime Minister from the post. Accordingly, the leader of the joint opposition, Dinesh Gunawardena, has pledged the support of its 52 parliamentarians to establish a UPFA government in writing.
We hope to give our support to temporarily rule the country, but with conditions. The UNP government, however, should be removed and the Prime Minister should also be removed. We are holding discussions on the future course.
The
President requested that the joint opposition accept the post of the Prime Minister, but we refused because we don't have the mandate of the people for that. He also offered the post of Speaker of Parliament, and we promised to discuss it within the group and inform him. He said that he will call for legal advice because since there is an issue with the constitution. When one party of the national government informs the other party that the national government is finished, there can't be a 48-member cabinet. It will dissolve and the two parties will separate. Then the post of Prime Minister will automatically end because according to Article 46.2 of the Constitution, dissolving the cabinet nullifies the post of Prime Minister. Then the President has the power to appoint someone under the Article 42.4 whom he thinks has the confidence of a majority in Parliament. His choice is Minister Nimal Siripala. When we were asked for our opinion, we said that we are ready to support any member of the UPFA whom he deems to be suitable.
Now, as per the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, President's Counsel Manohara De Silva says that it is important that a Prime Minister should hold the confidence of Parliament if one is to continue functioning in that capacity. He added that the President also has the power to renew the Cabinet if he wishes to do so.
Under Article 42, Sub-Article 4, the President can appoint as Prime Minister a Member of Parliament who, in the President's opinion, is most likely to command the confidence of Parliament. Now, it is my view that he could hold that post as long as he commands the confidence of Parliament. The next important article is Article 43, Sub-Article 2. Once the Prime Minister is appointed, the President has to appoint the Cabinet on the advice of the Prime Minister. Although Article 43.2 says that it is on the advice of the Prime Minister that he should appoint the Cabinet, the very next section, that is Article 43, Sub-Article 3, specifically states that at any time the President can change the Cabinet, which means that the President can sack the entire Cabinet under Article 43.3. Now, the section that some people rely on is Article 46, Sub-Article 2, which says that the Prime Minister can continue to hold office during which the Cabinet of Ministers continues to function under the Constitution unless he resigns or ceases to be a Member of Parliament. So an argument is brought that as long as he is a Member of Parliament and that he has not resigned, then that he could continue in office. But there is an important qualification to this, namely that Prime Minister shall continue to hold office throughout the period during which the Cabinet of Ministers continue to function. So if the President removes all the Cabinet Ministers, then the prohibition in Article 46.2 will not apply. So the moment the present Cabinet is removed, the prohibition contained in 46.2 will not apply, and therefore the President can, if he is of opinion that some other person commands the confidence of Parliament, a new Prime Minister can be appointed. So the 46.2 applies to the Cabinet that the Prime Minister advised the President to appoint. So that once that Cabinet is removed from office, I can't see any prohibition for the President to remove the Prime Minister.
Well, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa is of the view that it is the responsibility of the President to form a new government in consideration of the prevailing political climate. The former head of state voiced his opinion during a function at the Supreme Court premises today.
Ramdula Ranawaka, the daughter of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa's sister, today took oath as a Supreme Court lawyer. The former President, former Minister Basil Rajapaksa, former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa, as well as other family members were present at the event.
I believe the leaders of the joint opposition will meet the President. We will render our support while seated in the opposition. It is not our business. They can choose a new Prime Minister or ministers if they wish. We will sit in the opposition during a time when the country is going through instability and citizens are going through a lot of issues to intervene. That is our responsibility. You will have to ask this from the president. I'm only the former president.
ඔව් අපේ දුවෙක් දිවුරුම් දුන්නා උසාවියේ. අපි ඉතින් හැමදාම සටන් කරනවානේ රට වෙනුවෙන්. කවුරුත් දන්නවනේ කොච්චර.
I believe everyone knows what a mess the country is in. That is why we're seeking a general election.
මහමැතිවරණයක් ඉල්ලන්නේ.
The Chief Prelate of the Malwatu chapter, Most Venerable Tibbatuavi Sri Sumangala Thera, today insisted that it is the responsibility of the government to govern without leading the country to instability. Releasing a media communique this evening, the Chief Prelate said the political uncertainty currently manifesting within the country following the recent election is hindering the betterment, peace and coexistence of the people. In this backdrop, the Venerable Thera says that it is high time to follow through on the promises made during the last presidential and general elections. President Maithripala Sirisena today instructed ministerial secretaries to continue implementing of the development program falls under relevant ministries and institutions without allowing any setbacks in the country's development. The head of state was addressing secretaries of ministries at the Presidential Secretariat today.
Addressing the secretaries of ministries, the President noted that development programs implemented for the public should continue. The head of state also said that he is hoping to visit each ministry to look into programs implemented at ministerial level.
Incidents have been reported of ministries that does not fulfill their duties within the current political backdrop after the election, citing possible changes of ministers. I request the ministries to fulfill their duties, keeping all the political situations aside, and to take up the leadership and the responsibilities of the sectors of financial management, administration and development. What is necessary is to continue the work implemented under the state policy according to our goals.
Also in one of our headline stories tonight, the Fourth Magistrate today ordered former Central Bank Governor Arjun Mahendran to appear before the Criminals Investigation Department by the 8th of next March. The order follows Mahendran's failure to appear before courts before yesterday as ordered earlier by the Fourth Magistrate.
Although the Colombo Fourth Magistrate issued a notice to former Central Bank Governor Arjuna Mahendran to appear before the Criminal Investigations Department before the 15th of this month to provide a statement, he failed to do so. Additional Solicitor General Yasantha Kodagura told courts today that as per statements made by the daughter of former Central Bank Governor, it was evident that her father was aware of the notice and is purposefully evading order. The Additional Solicitor General added that from the 29th of May 2014 to the 7th of February 2018, Arjuna Aloysius and his father withdrew 1.1 billion rupees from a bank account of the W.M. Mendes company to be given as gift money to persons who assisted in the bond auction. Thereby, Colombo Fourth Magistrate Lanka Jaratna ordered former Central Bank Governor to present himself before the CID on or before the 8th of March to give a statement. Meanwhile, the owner of Perpetual Treasuries Limited, Arjuna Aloysius, and Perpetual's CEO, Kasun Palisena, were further remanded until March 2nd, after they were produced before the Colombo Fourth Magistrate Lanka Jaratna today. Colombo Fourth Magistrate Lanka Jaratna also reissued the open warrant against former Sri Lankan ambassador to the USA, Jalia Wickremesinghe. A warrant to arrest his wife and a relative who appeared as sureties when Jalia was permitted to travel abroad was also issued today. The former OIC of the Crimes Unit of the Mount Lavinia Police, Tisu Sugatipala, and former Senior DIG of the Western Province, Prasanna Nanayakara, was remanded until the 2nd of this month for allegedly concealing evidence and providing false evidence in the murder of former Sunday Leader Chief Editor Lasantha Wickrematunge.
A person was shot dead adjacent to the Housed-off Court complex this evening. Another person, however, died after being involved in the aftermath of the incident.
A person was shot dead at around 4:50 p.m. today adjacent the Housed-off Court complex, which falls under the Keselvatha police area. The victim was admitted to the National Hospital, but the hospital spokesperson confirmed that the 39-year-old was already dead upon admission. In the meantime, locals captured a suspect and handed him over to police. The police, however, said that the alleged suspect had already suffered serious injuries due to the violent behavior of the people when attempting to capture him. He was also admitted to the National Hospital, but the alleged suspect too had succumbed upon admission. Meanwhile, the police said another person suspected in the incident has absconded and the motive behind the shooting is yet to be ascertained. A special ceremony was organized today to mark the 43rd year of the Pinnavala Elephant Orphanage. The orphanage was set up in 1975 under the patronage of late Minister of Tourism and Aviation, PBG Kalugalla. At its inception, the orphanage provided shelter to 5 elephant calves and now it boasts 85 elephants and tuskers.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
On to business news now. The governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, says that the central bank expects Sri Lanka to be removed from the Financial Action Task Force compliance document, also known as the Grey List, by October this year. Speaking at a media briefing yesterday, the governor added that the central bank has put in place an action plan and will work according to a new time frame granted by the Asia Pacific Group on Money Laundering, which functions as the FATF's regional affiliated body.
The Financial Action Task Force evaluates legal, institutional framework and effective implementation of anti-money laundering and counter-financing measures of countries regularly through regional monitoring bodies. Sri Lanka was subjected to its first mutual evaluation by Asia Pacific Group in 2006 and the second mutual evaluation during 2014 to 2015, which recommended Sri Lanka to initiate a number of actions to rectify the anti-money laundering and counter-financing identified during the mutual evaluation. Following the international cooperation review of the FATF to assess the progress of AML's CFT effectiveness in October 2016, Sri Lanka was informed that it had not made sufficient progress in 4 areas, namely international cooperation, supervision, legal persons and arrangements, and targeted financial sanctions on proliferations. As a result, the FATF at its plenary held in Argentina in October last year listed Sri Lanka as a jurisdiction with strategic AML safety deficiencies in the FATF's grey list. Upon listing, a time-bound action plan to address the strategic deficiencies identified was provided to Sri Lanka.
We have worked with them, particularly the regional body, the Asia Pacific Group, to develop an action plan for us to get out of that grey list. Now, there is an agreed plan which we are implementing, and our expectation is by about October we would get off the grey list. Delay in compliance, this is complex in the sense that there are several government ministries and departments which are involved. Now, I think we can't get away from the fact that we should have done better. I'm not saying we shouldn't have got into this situation, but now we have got an action plan and we are working in a very concerted way to put it right. I should also say that even at the meeting where we were put on the grey list, the Asia Pacific Group, which is our regional body, supported us. They wanted to give us more time, and a number of regional countries and other countries did support us. Very sensitive thing, like certain sanctions and all, if you are not up to speed on it, you can get penalized for it.
Journalists also questioned the governor on the repercussions of Sri Lanka being listed on the grey list.
The grey list, you are basically put on notice. So there isn't, present we have not seen any direct impact. But if you then slip down to the blacklist, then it has dramatic repercussions. For instance, our banks will lose their correspondent relationships, and generally people will be very reluctant to deal with our financial services sector. Blacklist really becomes a problem. Right now it's an amber light that's flashing, and we need to get out of this list very quickly.
A survey shows revenues at the world's 12 biggest investment banks fell to their lowest level since 2008 last year, while a return to more volatile global markets in 2018 could be a mixed blessing for their businesses. Revenues for the 12 investment banks in the survey fell to $150 billion in 2017, a 4% decline on 2016, with falls in income from trading in equities and fixed income, currencies and commodities, two of their main business lines, with the latter dropping 11%. Investment banking advisory, the third main plank, was 2017's bright spot, with revenues up 10% annually thanks to a strong flow of underwriting fees from stock offerings. Let's take you to the stock market now. Sri Lankan shares hit a one-week closing high today as foreign investors' purchase helped in overcome negative market sentiment. The all-share price index ended 0.16% firmer. Now, for a detailed picture on how the markets performed during the week, here is Christina Aponsu from NDB Securities.
During the week, ASPI lost 0.13%, mainly due to price losses in counters such as Bukit Dara, Lanka IOC and Commercial Bank. Meanwhile, S&P SL20 decreased by 0.67% for the week. The average daily turnover for the week was down from last week to 716 million rupees. Banks, finance and insurance sector recorded the highest sector turnover during the week, whilst the second highest was seen in the diversified sector. Furthermore, foreigners closed as net buyers for the week, with foreign purchases accounting for 37% of the total weekly turnover. A net foreign inflow of nearly 494 million rupees was recorded for the week, resulting in the year-to-date net foreign inflow of 5.5 billion rupees. Out of the weekly turnover, block trades accounted for 13%, which was significantly a lower proportion than last week.
In international news tonight, the teenager accused of killing 17 people at a Florida high school on Wednesday has confessed to the shooting. According to a court document, 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz said that he arrived on campus and began shooting students before abandoning his weapon and escaping. He has appeared in court charged with 17 counts of premeditated murder. The FBI has admitted that it has received a tip-off about him last year. The attack at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida is the deadliest U.S. school shooting since 2012. According to the court document, Cruz stated that he was the gunman who entered the school campus armed with an AR-15 and began shooting students that he saw in the hallway and on the school ground, unquote. The documents quotes him as saying that he was carrying extra ammunition in a duffel backpack in order to shoot more students. In Australia, a major rift opened up in the coalition government today as Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce refused to resign over an affair with a staff member and blasted Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull's condemnation of his behaviour as inept. Turnbull said yesterday that Joyce, a married father of 4, had shown a shocking error of judgment for conducting the affair with his former press secretary, who is now pregnant, and called on his deputy to consider his position.
The Prime Minister's comments were seen as a thinly veiled call for the National Party leader to resign from cabinet, but Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce said today that he had the support of his colleagues to continue. Joyce leads the rural-based National Party, the junior partner in the centre-right government led by Premier Turnbull's Liberal Party. The Senate yesterday passed a motion for Joyce to resign over the affair, saying he had breached standards of behaviour expected of a minister.
In regards to comments by the Prime Minister yesterday at his press conference, I have to say that in many instances they caused further harm. I believe they were in many instances inept and most definitely in many instances unnecessary. This was a personal issue that's been dragged into the public arena, and I don't believe people should be resigning in any job over personal issues.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
On to sports now. The 2018 International Schools Athletic Championships is set to kick off on the 23rd of this month. This year's championship is organised by the Lyceum International School, and a media briefing in this regard was held at the school in Nogegoda.
Since its inception in 2001, the International Schools Athletic Championship has been an annual affair, with the Lyceum International School organising the event this year. The championship is scheduled to be held from the 23rd to the 25th of this month at the Mahinda Rajapaksa Stadium in Diyagama. It will see the participation of 2,000 athletes representing 23 international schools in Sri Lanka across 106 track and field events.
Well, Katharina Chang is at the Other Derana Weather Centre with your forecast first evening edition.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
A very good evening and welcome to Forecast First. Now, temperatures will vary between a mild 17 degrees Celsius to 33 degrees Celsius over the course of the day. A low pressure zone will form in the areas of Sabragama and central region of the island. However, some sunny or favourable weather conditions are forecast for the northern area. Moving downwards, some wet weather is forecast for the areas of Matara and Galle, with some sunny weather to be expected in the cities of Kandy and Colombo. That is it from your weather centre tonight. It's now time to take a look at your city-by-city forecast.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Well, it's Friday now, time for the good story of the week, and this week it comes in the form of a 25-year-old Sri Lankan who entered the Book of Guinness World Records. Tharindu Ishara today rode his motorbike a distance of 85 kilometers at a speed of 60 kilometers per hour by standing on the seat without a harness or any other form of support. A resident of Gokarala in Kurunegala, Tharindu rode his motorbike from Anuradhapura to Kurunegala and into the Guinness World Records. And that is a part of your world tonight right here on Other Derana 24/7. Make sure you join us tomorrow at the same time. I'm Mahesh Johnny. Enjoy the weekend.